Everything is getting it livable for Tammy.
Everything about Amy felt smaller now, or at least that's how she described it. Her clothes fit differently. Her body felt unfamiliar in a way that surprised even her. Moments that once required effort now felt natural, and she joked openly about it, laughing at herself, acknowledging how far she had come. She spoke about learning from her mistakes, about finally growing up, about trying to become an adult in ways she hadn't managed before. There were flashes of humor, casual compliments exchanged, light teasing, the kind of everyday banter that masked deeper changes happening beneath the surface. 2 months had passed since Tammy and Amy's explosive argument, yet the tension hadn't faded. If anything, it had transformed into something quieter but heavier. The family group chat was still active, but the tone had shifted. Messages were sharp, sarcastic, laced with frustration. What once had been playful now felt volatile, with humor often giving way to irritation. The distance between the sisters wasn't loud anymore, but it was constant. Season 8 of 1000 LB Sisters was supposed to be a celebration. Amy's wedding. Tammy's new independence. Fresh beginnings. But behind the cameras, everything unraveled. Arguments, secrecy, emotional breakdowns, and decisions that would permanently alter the family dynamic unfolded quietly, away from what viewers were meant to see. This was not the season TLC initially planned, but it was the one that emerged. In the early hours of a cold Kentucky morning, before most of Bowling Green had fully woken up, production vans rolled slowly through narrow residential streets. Fog clung to the air as headlights cut through the silence. The return of the 1000 LB Sisters crew was familiar to locals, but this time something felt different. The energy was heavier, guarded. Neighbors later said it felt as though the town itself sensed that something had shifted. What was publicly framed as another chapter in the Slayton family's journey was,
Amy Slayton is done with TLC, and she's ready to sue. She claims the network withheld $2 million and left her broke during filming for Season 8. Meanwhile, Tammy's new boyfriend has sparked a full-blown production crisis after showing up on set uninvited and getting into a fight with a cameraman. Now, the Slayton family is begging TLC to step in before everything collapses. This is the most explosive and dangerous season in 1000 Pound Sisters history. The chaos surrounding 1000 Pound Sisters Season 8 did not erupt overnight. According to multiple sources close to the Slayton family and inside the production team, the turmoil had been building silently for months. Long before cameras started rolling, long before Tammy introduced her new boyfriend, and long before Amy Slayton made the shocking decision that may end the entire franchise, behind the laughter, behind the familiar Kentucky backdrops, and behind the sisters' attempts to rebuild their lives after a turbulent year, there was something brewing. An exhausting pressure cooker that finally exploded into one of the biggest scandals in TLC history. At the center of it all is Amy Slayton, a mother of 2, who says she reached her emotional breaking point after years of what she describes as unfair treatment and financial entrapment by the very network that built its success on her family's vulnerability. According to a leaked interview that has since been circulated privately among entertainment journalists, Amy claimed, "TLC owes me $2 million. They kept it. They're reholding it. I haven't seen a dime." Her voice, described by those who heard the recording as shaking but firm, painted a disturbing picture, one that suggests her life off camera is far darker, more stressful, and more unstable than fans ever imagined. Those close to Amy say her financial situation has become dire. After separating from Michael and taking on full responsibility for her son's expenses, she reportedly struggled to cover even basic needs. A source close to the family said, "Amy is not living the life of someone on a hit TV show. She's worrying about rent, food, the kids' clothes. She's overwhelmed and exhausted." This tension grew worse when Amy discovered that certain payments from past seasons, money she believed she had earned, were allegedly withheld or delayed. Whether intentionally or due to contract complications is unknown, but what insiders agree on is that Amy felt betrayed. She told producers she couldn't continue recording Season 8 until she saw her money. And when she felt ignored, she escalated. "If they didn't give it back, I'm done. I'll sue them." That threat alone sent waves through TLC's corporate offices. It's the first time in the show's history that a main cast member publicly challenged the network on financial grounds. Production was reportedly instructed to pause, awaiting legal guidance, leaving dozens of crew members stuck in limbo with no idea whether the cameras would ever roll again. But Amy's financial war with TLC was only one half of the explosive equation. The other half was forming quietly on Tammy Slayton's side of the family. Something far more personal, dangerous, and terrifying. It began with a new name Tammy mentioned only casually at first. A man she met online, someone she claimed made her feel seen, loved, and appreciated. To her family, those words were immediate red flags. Tammy has always been vulnerable to men with questionable intentions, and history has shown that certain individuals target her specifically because of her fame, her struggles, and her loneliness. What Tammy didn't know, according to insiders, was that this new man had a disturbing documented history of manipulating emotionally fragile women. Background checks reportedly revealed past restraining orders, harassment allegations, and multiple online profiles used to approach women dealing with weight issues or mental health struggles. Producers were alarmed but attempted to remain neutral until everything escalated into an event so shocking that several crew members reportedly refused to return to set afterward. Filming for season 8 had barely begun when the man appeared uninvited on set. Not during a family gathering, not during a planned scene, not when security was expecting visitors. He appeared suddenly, pacing outside the crew's trailers, demanding to know why Tammy's privacy was being violated. Witnesses say he stormed toward the main filming area and confronted a cameraman, shouting, accusing the production team of exploiting Tammy, and getting close enough that security had to intervene. A cameraman later described the moment as the most dangerous incident we've faced on this show. Tammy, sitting in her wheelchair during the commotion, was visibly trembling. Amy cried. Amanda yelled at the man to get away, and producers, fearing a lawsuit or worse, ordered all cameras and equipment shut down immediately. But even after the man was escorted off the property, the emotional aftershocks continued. That night, the family gathered off camera and had what one insider called the most heartbreaking conversation of the season so far. They begged TLC to take action. They demanded that this man be banned from filming, from set access, and from involvement with Tammy in any capacity. But what truly broke them was their belief that TLC saw this chaos as good TV, something to exploit rather than address. At this point, with Amy threatening legal warfare and Tammy in a potentially dangerous entanglement, the production of season 8 fell into complete disarray. Crew members were told to stand by until further notice, unsure whether they were filming a hit reality show or witnessing the collapse of a family under unbearable pressure. The fallout from the explosive set incident involving Tammy Slaton's new boyfriend did not settle quietly. Instead, it sent shockwaves through every corner of the production, deepening fractures that had been forming silently for months. What should have been a fresh beginning for 1,000 Pounds Sister season 8 had turned into a storm of uncertainty, fear, and distrust. Those who returned to work the following morning described the atmosphere as cold, on edge, and broken in a way we've neither seen before. And many staff members admitted privately that they felt for the first time that the Slaton family was no longer safe in the world TLC had created around them. According to multiple sources, the day after the confrontation, producers called the family in for an emergency meeting. The network wanted reassurance that filming would continue, but the sisters, especially Amanda and Chris, were adamant. They refused to put Tammy back in front of cameras until they had guarantees of her safety. One insider, who was present during the closed-door meeting, described the scene as deeply emotional. Amanda wasn't yelling, the source said. She wasn't angry. She was tired, drained. She looked at the producers and said, if something happens to Tammy because y'all wanted ratings, that blood is on your hands. Yet, while Tammy's safety had become the focus of the crew's panic, it was Amy's unraveling financial crisis that pushed the production to the edge of collapse. Amy did not show up to the emergency meeting. According to insiders, she stayed home, avoiding both the cameras and the producers who had repeatedly asked for her cooperation. Her absence was not silent. It was intentional, pointed, a declaration that she was no longer willing to participate in a system she believed had betrayed her. Behind the scenes, Amy's life had spiraled into unbearable pressure. The leaked interview in which she accused TLC of withholding $2 million was not an impulsive act of anger. It was the result of years of frustration that had grown too heavy to carry. Amy reportedly hired a private accountant months earlier, who discovered major discrepancies between her contract promises and her actual paid amounts. Those findings left her devastated. To Amy, it wasn't just money. It was proof that she had given the network her weight struggles, her heartbreak, her family turmoil, and her most vulnerable life moments, and had been compensated with barely a fraction of what she felt she deserved. Family insiders say Amy cried for hours the night she received the report. She felt used. She felt powerless. She felt like she had spent years sacrificing her mental health, her dignity, and her privacy, only to end up in a worse financial situation than when she started. But what broke her hardest, according to a friend, was the fear that she could no longer provide for her sons. She was terrified, the friend shared. She kept saying, what if I can't pay rent next month? What if they take the boys? What if I lose them because I worked myself into the ground for this show? And so her refusal to film was more than a negotiation tactic, it was a desperate stand for survival. While TLC attempted to downplay the conflict, production insiders say the network was thrown into panic mode behind the scenes. They tried offering temporary advances. They tried promising revised payment schedules. But those gestures were met with silence. Amy had reached a point where compromise was no longer an option. In her eyes, anything less than full payment of the $2 million was another betrayal. Meanwhile, Tammy was becoming increasingly isolated. Those closest to her said she was torn between defending the new boyfriend she felt connected to and acknowledging the fears of her family and the crew. The argument on set, though frightening, had only intensified her emotional attachment. For Tammy, who had always craved acceptance, the boyfriend's aggressive behavior was misinterpreted as protectiveness. She reportedly told her siblings, "He's the only one really looking out for me." But the Slatton family saw something much darker, something predatory. Off camera, Amanda and Chris began collecting screenshots, messages, and statements.
Reality television thrives on spectacle. It survives on shock, emotional highs and lows, and the illusion that every dramatic moment is unfolding naturally in front of the camera. Viewers are trained to expect cliffhangers, heated arguments, tears, reconciliations, and surprise revelations. Yet the most significant twists often happen far away from the cameras, buried inside contract negotiations, late-night phone calls with producers, and quiet decisions made when someone finally reaches their limit. That is exactly where Amy Slayton found herself. In a move that stunned fans and quietly sent shockwaves through the network, Amy Slayton declined to sign a new contract and stepped away from 1000 LB Sisters before Season 8 even began filming. The decision didn't just surprise viewers. It threatened the foundation of the franchise itself. Amy was not a side character. She was the emotional anchor, the relatable voice, the sister audiences rooted for season after season. For years, fans believed Amy was living the dream she had fought so hard to reach. Fame, financial stability, a platform to inspire others, and a chance to rewrite her story. From the outside, walking away seemed unthinkable. Why would someone leave just as the spotlight burned brightest? The truth, according to those close to the situation, is far more complicated and far more human. To understand why Amy refused to sign on for Season 8, it's necessary to return to the very beginning, long before TLC entered her life. Amy Slayton was never groomed for fame. She wasn't a celebrity, an influencer, or a polished media personality. She was a woman from Dixon, Kentucky, navigating poverty, health struggles, and everyday survival. Long before television contracts, Amy and her sister Tammy turned to YouTube. Their early videos were raw, unfiltered, messy, and often chaotic. There was no production value, no scripted drama, no calculated branding. Just two sisters sharing their lives with honesty and hum.
Facing the unthinkable losing her kids. TLC buried it, but the truth is finally coming out. The footage begins without drama, without music, without the exaggerated pacing that usually defines reality television. There is no build-up, no warning, no hint that what is about to unfold will become one of the most disturbing moments ever captured during the filming of 1,000 Sisters. The camera is already rolling when Amy Slayton enters the room. Her posture slumped, her eyes unfocused, her hands shaking slightly as she lowers herself into a chair she has sat in hundreds of times before. To viewers, this would have looked like just another production meeting, another routine scene designated to move the story forward. But according to multiple insiders who later witnessed the raw, unedited footage, this moment marked the beginning of the day Amy Slayton emotionally collapsed in front of the cameras after confronting the possibility of losing her children. At this point in filming, Amy's life was already under immense pressure. Publicly, she was portrayed as struggling but hopeful, a young mother juggling weight loss, parenting, marriage troubles, and fame. Privately, however, sources say the cracks were growing deeper by the week. Production schedules had intensified, personal stresses were mounting, and Amy's mental health was reportedly deteriorating in ways that concerned both her family and those closest to the show. What viewers never knew was that this particular day was not originally meant to focus on Amy's emotional state at all. It was meant to be informational, procedural, and brief. Instead, it became something no one in that room was prepared for. According to individuals present during filming, Amy was informed on camera that certain ongoing issues in her life had triggered serious concerns from multiple directions. While no official custody ruling had yet been made, the conversation centered on the very real risk that if conditions did not change quickly, her ability to maintain full custody of her children could be challenged. Those words, sources say, hit Amy with the force of a physical blow. Her face reportedly went pale. She stopped responding for several seconds. The only sound in the room was the hum of the camera equipment and the faint movement of crew members shifting uncomfortably in place. Amy had always worn her emotions openly. Fans knew her as someone who cried easily, laughed loudly, and reacted instinctively. But what happened next, according to those who saw the footage, was not her usual emotional release. It was something far more alarming. Amy reportedly whispered almost to herself that she had already lost everything once, and that she couldn't survive losing them, too. Then, without warning, she broke down. Witnesses say Amy slid out of the chair and onto the floor, her body curling inward as if trying to disappear. Her breathing became erratic. She sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her chest, repeatedly asking whether this was really happening and whether the cameras were still on. They were. One crew member later described the moment as watching someone realize their worst nightmare in real time. Another said it felt wrong